Are you familiar with impact play? You may have heard of this before if you've dabbled into kink and BDSM or learned about it. You're at the beginning of your journey of learning about it. I'm currently getting kink informed as a SMEGS therapist. By the way, hi, I'm Dr. Sonya Maya, a psychologist, SMEGS therapist, ASEX certified SMEGS therapist. I should start saying that more, as well as a content provider. And I post every week for Ask the Clitician. So welcome. Thank you so much for watching. As I learn more about impact play, I realize it's kind of misunderstood on the internet. Some people may think that impact play is this aspect of the harder the better, the more pain that you can take, that's the goal, but that's not the point. And something that's really important to emphasize is when it comes to something like impact play, which I'll get into what it is in a moment, is that communication, pacing, and aftercare are crucial when it comes to pretty much any type of kink activity, but especially impact play when there's impact involved, because it is, what it sounds like. And I want to walk through what considerations you want to make before getting into it with a trusted partner. So yeah, the first thing I'm going to get into in this video is what is impact play. The second thing I'm going to get into is how to communicate effectively about it using something that can be referred to as a number scale. So I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment in terms of how to navigate the communication more effectively. And then number 3, how to participate in effective aftercare. And yeah, that is what it sounds like. Making sure you're taking care of each other. Mac here's neighbors. I'm watching a friend's dog. Sorry. Making sure you're taking care of one another after the experience, because it can be very intense. By the way, if you want to learn more about sex, psychology, and relationships, finger that like, impact that subscribe. That didn't work. Finger that subscribe and turn on bell notifications for weekly videos to help you get more comfortable talking about SMEGS and having a more fulfilling SMEGS life. So what is impact play? Yes, it is basically what it sounds like. It is when one person or maybe multiple people create some type of intense sensation on another person's body that creates some type of impact. This could be with a hand, this could be with a paddle, logger, a crop, or even a hairbrush, pretty much anything. It could be a belt. And something that I have been learning more about is the fact that when you're using a device that has more edges, that is typically going to create more intensity, more pain. So that's something to keep in mind. So if you are new to impact play, I would definitely suggest something that has a little bit less edges on it, maybe something smoother, a paddle without edges, so that you're kind of starting small and working your way up as you get more comfortable, realizing what type of intensity brings you the experience that you're looking for. And again, people tend to assume that it's about the pain. However, the more I speak to people in the kink community and hear more about the way it's spoken about, it's more about the intensity of the experience. And for some people, it's also the anticipation that could be really hot and it can create this body rush. And there's something about the power exchange and the feeling of letting go. Also, when you're doing it with someone trusted, that can be what people describe as a healing experience, because there's something about having someone do impact play on you who cares about you and your well-being that can be really nice, because you are in control of the situation. When there always has to be consent involved. There has to be negotiation. There has to be understanding of each other's boundaries before getting into this. So that's really important to keep in mind. By the way, if you want to get better at setting boundaries and understanding consent a bit more, I did make a video last week on the consent wheel and a game that you could try to get more comfortable asking for what you want and knowing what you want, as well as taking your time in responding to make sure that the consent that you're practicing is really comfortable for everybody, because a lot of the time when we don't know how to do this, we can sometimes end up in situations unintentionally that are not as comfortable. So that's something to keep in mind. So I will put it up here so you can check that out. And of course, the intensity that is preferred is going to vary from person to person, which is why communication is so important. So let's talk about part 2, how to use a number scale as a way to communicate more effectively with your partner who is giving you the impact, who is providing the impact. So the scale that I would recommend would be a 0 to 10 scale. So 0 would mean little to no sensation. 3 might be like very light, very easy to tolerate. Maybe 5 is moderate, 7 is intense but still wanted, 10 would be too much beyond what you want. So that's kind of how you want to think about it, right? It's important to remember that numbers vary from each individual. So if someone tells you, I want you to spank me at a 7, they might not actually know what a 7 means to you until the spanking happens. By the way, when I say I want to spank as a 7, it's interesting because a 7 might actually be different today as it is from like last Wednesday. Sometimes it depends on how you're feeling in your body in that moment, maybe hormones, maybe if you're feeling like being more gently kind of like handled like a hot cup of tea. And then other days you want to be like thrown around like a rag doll. I've heard the analogy that I love of food analogies of like sometimes you want really spicy food, other times you're not really in the mood for spicy food. You can think about intensity that way. It changes from day to day. That's why it's important to communicate these things to the best of your ability in the moment, right? Because even if you've done some type of impact play with someone before, you don't know if a 7 is the same for them as it was before. So that's important to keep in mind. And you want to do something that you can refer to it as calibration. I don't really like that word because I've never used it in my life. So I'm like, is there a synonym for calibration? Let me think. Okay, I just Googled it. Adjustment, alignment, regulation. Okay, I would say alignment. I like that because I've actually used the term alignment when I recommend people do alignment sessions where they talk about what they like. So yeah, in order to calibrate or get aligned with your partner, I would recommend giving your partner information to understand what a number means in your body that day. So you could tell your partner, I think I want a 7 out of 10 in terms of a spank. They might try something on the lighter side. They might use the paddle and give you one swat, right? And then you're going to tell them how that felt to you from 0 to 10. So maybe when they did that little swat, that was a 3, a little higher. That felt like a 6. Can you give me a little bit more? Ooh, that intensity, that intensity. Ooh, that feels good. Can you try that again? Like, or ooh, that's the right level. Stay right there. Yes, that was good. So this can give someone information that they can use. So if you do want to change in a tool, like let's say you're using your hand and then you're switching to a paddle or a flogger or whatever, you may want to start over the alignment process because a different tool again can provide a different sensation. So really just using that numbers game or exercise rather, whenever you're switching tools and switching days, switching partners, that kind of thing. And if you're the giver, don't assume that silence means everything is fine. This is part of the negotiation and boundaries before of like, sometimes it's good to talk about what it means at certain times. Like, let's say you may say to somebody like, oh, if I go silent, that typically means I'm okay, right? And then you'll have some type of code words for when this isn't okay. And this looks different in different situations. Like, for example, if you're doing a type of kinky play that you have a ball gag, you have to do some type of nonverbal indicator, obviously. It could be like a tap tap for when we need to stop, right? Like that would be a red light when you need to stop, that kind of thing. So talking about that beforehand is important. But as the giver, just being really attuned to the person that's giving, and you can check in. Like, is this still okay? Now let's get into aftercare because this is really important to keep in mind. Something that I have been learning more about is how it could be good to have an aftercare plan for when things go well. And it could also be effective to have a trigger plan for when things don't go so well. Because again, we don't really know how we're going to feel until we experience something. That could look different for different things. So I would be happy to make a video getting into more detail about a trigger plan, but let's talk about in this circumstance of like when things go well. What do you want to incorporate in your aftercare conversations and activities? So aftercare is something that happens after a scene to help people regulate, connect, communicate, come down, and take care of your body and your nervous system. We do talk about aftercare in the context of sexual experiences in general. Again, kink activities are not always sexual, sometimes they are. However, aftercare is really important to keep in mind whether it's a sexual experience or a kink experience. But when it comes to something like impact play, aftercare is very important because there's this phenomenon that happens for a lot of people called subspace, where you basically get into almost like this altered state of consciousness where you're like high off of the experience, and that can feel really good. For a lot of people, it could be really intense. Aftercare can help you keep things nice and aligned and helps you show your nervous system that everything is safe. So being aligned on aftercare is really important for what you may need. So in terms of aftercare, it's important to understand, what does my body need right now, physically, and what does my mind need now, mentally? So maybe you need to be hydrated. Maybe you need to get a nutritious snack. Maybe it's blankets if it's cold. Maybe you need some ice if you're sweating, an ice pack. That could be really regulating for some people. Emotionally, aftercare may look like some conversations around what went well, what was your favorite part, what would you have liked to go differently, what do you want more of next time, what do you want less of next time. And it's important not to take any of those things personally, because this is all preference specific, if that makes sense. Like, it has nothing to do with like a performance of the person who was giving. It's more so of like what would feel more aligned next time. It also helps you get into like an intellectual space. Like, you're bringing back in your frontal lobe, the part of your brain responsible for like logic and reasoning, which can help people get out of subspace quicker if that is the goal. Maybe you want to cuddle and have some closeness and reassurance and decompression before getting out of subspace or whatever. Like, you don't have to go straight into the let's talk about concrete feedback. However, that can be really, really helpful for a lot of people. But it's important to keep in mind that different people want different things. Some people want verbal reassurance, some people want affirmations, a lot of people just want to be held. So, like, what do you need from me right now? Or what would feel really aligned for you right now? Let's just hold me. That could be nice. If the impact was more intense, it might be good to check in the next day. The aftercare doesn't have to end just in the same day. Having that ongoing, like, I care about you dynamic can be really helpful, of course, in building and maintaining a safe and comfortable kink relationship or dynamic with somebody that is great for the nervous system and psychological well-being. So if you are thinking about trying impact play, maybe for the first time, or you are continuing to incorporate impact play into your kink lifestyle in general, I hope this was helpful for some considerations. And I make videos every week on psychology, relationships, and SMEGs. And some of them are going to be kink informed as I continue my kink informed journey with Sexual Health Alliance. Make sure to finger that like. I keep wanting to use kink words. Spank that like. No. Blog that like. No, that sounds cringe. Finger that subscribe. Turn on bell notifications. And I will see you next week. Everyone make pleasurable, and make sure to make pleasurable cliticians and decisions with some aftercare, because you deserve it.